Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all for tuning in for podcast number two, with a safe space with talk business talk with Cedric Turner. I got the I got a young lady. Her name is Lori, and I met her through another franchising system, and she was very knowledgeable about a lot of things. So she inboxed me and asked me to come on. And I said, well, it'd be so great for you to come on and talk about, because she's done a lot of work in franchising. She's with Score now. So without further ado, I want to introduce my good friend, Miss Lori, to the show. Good morning, Miss Lori.
Hey, Sedrick, how are you today?
Great, great, great. So, Miss Lori, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing with Scores. Just kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So I've been in the franchising business since 2006. I first entered into franchising as a franchise sales manager, and I worked for Sonic Drive-Ins. And started out as a manager. Honestly, when I applied, I knew nothing about franchising at all, but somehow I managed to talk myself into the job. But what I did know a lot about was working, helping people to start businesses. And I knew relationships, and the franchising business is a relationship business. It's the relationship between you and your customers. It's the relationship between you and your employees, and it's the relationships that you have with your franchisor. So somehow got into that. I stayed with Sonic for close to, gosh, almost 16 years and helped grow the brand out across the US. So that was exciting for me. And got to meet some really amazing people. I'd love to tell you that when you get into franchising, everybody's 100% successful, but that would be a lie. Some make it, some don't. I've seen the successes, but I've also seen the failures. And but that was how I really cut my teeth in franchising. Like I said, spent 16 years with them. They then got bought by Rourke, which is a large part of Inspire Brands that owns multiple brands. I left, started doing consulting for smaller franchise businesses. And then one day got a knock on the door, and QDOBA Mexican Eats called me and said, hey, we'd love you to join the brand. So I'm currently vice president of development for QDOBA's, and I handle nationwide sales for the brand. So that's a little bit about how I started in franchising.
That that is a great story and journey. And you said you had no experience?
None. So I must have been good in sales because somehow I talked myself into
You
a
got a pretty
job
smile.
where I didn't
A
know
pretty
anything
smile.
about it.
That's good. Well, God, He blessed you with that talent. You got a natural talent, so you can tell by your smile and your her whole air about yourself. So you got this. So that's a blessing that God blessed you with. So thank you so much for the introduction, and just want to jump right on in to
Yeah.
kind of talk about different aspects of business itself. And it's a lot of systems out there that a lot of us don't know or did know, that you brought to my attention. I knew about Score. Score is a organization, nonprofit organization that help you to steer you in the right direction. They don't want to do the work for you, but they'll steer you in the right direction to become an entrepreneur. Correct?
Correct. So,
Okay.
yeah, I first got involved with SCORE, just, working with the Small Business Association. So, if you go to look online and you're like, I'm looking for a franchise, you can go to the SBA. Okay. SBA, IFA, International Franchise Association, is another great resource for somebody who's looking for a franchise. But SBA does a lot of the financing when people are first getting started. They have a lot of different programs for veterans, they have minority programs, just a whole gamut of different programs. And so they had I was familiar with them because some of the franchisees I was helping was getting financing. And then I saw that they had what was called SCORE, which is a nonprofit organization that is affiliated with SBA, where you can call it. So you can go to the SCORE, it's score.org. You can go to the website and you can put in your zip code number, and then they will connect you with local professionals. So SCORE is people that have a lot of experience in various topics of business, whether it's marketing, franchising, accounting, just and there are a lot of them. When I first got on the committee here, I live in Oklahoma City, in Edmond, a lot of really people with deep experience. I'm talking 20, 30 years that do this to help give back and help people learn from their mistakes, right? And so you can go in there, and then when you get in there, you can get teamed up with a mentor. So I know a couple of the ones I worked with was somebody who had a barbecue restaurant, and they were getting hit because with independence, a lot of times it's really hard from a supply chain standpoint to get the best possible pricing. And they were like, how can we compete? We're going out there trying to buy the meat every day. And so then I'm like, oh, okay, you can go to the Oklahoma State Association. They have, you can join some of these co-op groups. And so you're kind of helping them with that. Other ones has been a female that was starting her business. And she's like, okay, how can I do this? Or another time, it was somebody recently just reach out to me that has a lot of restaurants and go, how can I get started in franchising? Like, how do I get started in this? So that's why I think SCORE is a great way, and because all this is people volunteering their time. But like you mentioned, Sedrick, they don't do the work for you. So if most brands, when you go to them, will ask you to put a business plan together. The reason we do that is it's not just for my benefit, it's for the bank's benefit. It's for when you go to get finance, and everybody should have that, 5-year goal, and you have to put it on paper. You need to put it on paper so you can go back, and then your business plan should change year by year. It doesn't matter if you have one restaurant, 5 restaurants, 5 different concepts. Have a business plan, have a goal, and try to follow that. And so when you go to a bank to get finance, they'll say to you, okay, why should I take a risk on you? And you're going to have the business plan. Hey, this is my background. This is where I came from. Oh, this is what I know about operations. This is what I know about development. If it's a personal care franchises, because there's 4,000 franchise systems out there. There is a franchise system for everybody. If you love pets, there's multiple franchises for that. If you like the wellness industry, multiple franchises for that. Just, really do your research so you make sure it's a franchise that fits with your background. Because again, at some point, you're going to go to a bank perhaps to get finance, and they're going to want to make sure you have the background. And so that's what a business plan does for you. You take it, and at some point, you're going to go to the bank, give them your business plan, and they're going to go through it with you and say, okay, why should I finance that for you? But those are some of the things that SCORE has, tools that you can go in, or they have videos. Let's say you have to do a marketing plan. How do I put a marketing plan together? How do I know social media? How do I do this? How do I do that? There's lots of different buckets of information that you can access, because as a SCORE volunteer, which I'm not doing right now because I have a full-time job, but we can't tell you how to run your business. Like you said, it's giving you the tools and kind of asking you the questions as you go through the process to help you kind of think this through. So that's why a business plan, is important.
You know what? That was a wealth of knowledge you just told us, and I do recall. To me, when you're doing a business plan, banks look at it like, okay, what kind of experience? You said something very important. What kind of experience you have? So I think that's a key. If you want to go into an industry, you might want to go work in that industry, or work in that, for example, restaurant, or work in a restaurant, because you might not like it, right? Or
That is
if you
correct.
you might not like it, right? But if you do, you can show the hey, Mr. Banker, I've worked at this restaurant for so many years. It's experience I gained, and that's what feel them confident that you can run it because, like you said, it's their investment. They're investing in you, and they want to make sure they can get their money back, right?
Right.
So,
And you're
so that,
investing in, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And you're investing. And sometimes it's,
yeah,
I always say it's easier for a millionaire to find an operator than an operator to find a million. No matter what business you get into, got to have some money getting into this. And that may mean, sometimes you have a financial partner. Maybe you're the skin in the game, but you got to get a financial partner, or you have to lower your expectations a little bit, right? So, when you have 4,000 franchise systems out there, like let's say somebody wanted to do QDOBA, and I'm like, okay, you got to have 500,000 liquid, but I don't have that. I only have 250, or I only have 50,000. Okay. Well, maybe you do a service industry like dryer vent cleaning, or, putting, maybe it's a coffee shop where you don't have as much of that investment. So you kind of got to step your way. To me, if you've not been into franchising, don't think you can go to Taco Bell right away. Like you got to step your way into it and then learn the business of franchising, because it's super important that you understand franchising, what is expected from the franchisor, and then what we expect from you, because it's not our job to run your business. Our job is to give you the tools you need to run your business. And then hopefully you're putting the right people on the bus in it, and hiring the right people. Because I always say, if you take care of the guests will take care of you. I don't care what business that's in, whether it's restaurant, service, wellness, whatever. Take care of your customer, because a repeat customer is always your most loyal customer. And those are the ones you can count on when the times get tough, right?
amen. You touched on something too about when you're doing let's say if you go to a bank and get a apply for a business loan, you got to have a cash injection.
Yeah.
Usually they ask for 15 or 20%. Can you kind of touch on that and how
Yeah.
important it is for you to have skin
Yeah.
in the game?
Yeah. You're usually looking at, even with SBA, they're usually wanting 10, 15, I would say closer to 15 to 20% down. Now, the reason, we know you're going to go get financed, right? But that's why when you call a brand and say, hey, what's your financial criteria? And I go, you have to have X amount of money in the bank, non-borrowed funds. It's because I know the bank is going to require that you put equity injection in. Now, your first unit, the bank's like, I don't know, you bet 20%, right? Second unit, 20%. Third unit, you got a proven track record. Okay, you know how to operate this. Your P&L looks good. You're able to pay yourself. You're able to put money into future reserves for future development. Maybe now I only need 15%. At some point, and that's why people talk about multi-unit ownership. It's because when you do one unit of anything, you're basically paying for your learning curve. You're paying for you to go through all the training. Okay. You're paying for all your mistakes, because you are going to make mistakes. By your second store, you're like, I'm trained. I'll never do that again. I spent too much money on the build out. I didn't do enough at the grand opening. You learn from your mistakes. And that's why you see more and more people wanting to be in multi-unit ownership, or brands saying you need to have multiple units over time, because we know that you'll get better with, hopefully, with each subsequent unit. And then your financing will kind of, you're not being required to put as much cash in, because hopefully your businesses are making cash and you've got cash reserves then. And then sometimes I have people, like I'm working with somebody right now. He's like, I'm going to pay cash for my first two. I don't want any debt. God bless you if you can do that, if you've got the money. Or when money was cheap, what was that, 2 years ago? when money was cheap, then it didn't matter how much money somebody said. So why would I use my own money? Money's so cheap right now. I'm going to the bank. So that's something in your business plan. You also need to think through, like, okay, how am I going to do this? Because you still have to, you have your monthly needs, right? Financially, that you need to be able to cover. So your house payment, college, whatever. So you need to make sure you've got funds for that. So I always look for the cream. I'm like, what's left over? Do you have enough to have leftovers to go into the business? And that's what the banks look for too. Once you meet your daily or your monthly needs, what's left over that you can put into this business? And so that's why it's important to really, before you start looking at a franchise, and I'm still a big proponent of franchising because I think it's really a business in a box is what I call it. And, you've got, in a lot of cases, a proven concept, but I would say to you, do your homework on the brand, research it. While I am a franchise sales professional, I don't like to say I'm in sales. I like to say I'm an information specialist. My job is to give you the information you need to make a good business decision. If I'm not a good fit for you, hey, I'd rather you figure it out on the front end than get into the system and go, oh, I didn't know I had to do that. Or, oh, I didn't know it was going to cost this much money. Or I didn't know it was going to be this much work. So really figure out personally, how much time do you want to put into this endeavor? And then kind of look for a brand that maybe would fit that. Is it a breakfast concept, 6 to 2? Is it, a wellness, a gym? Are you passionate about wellness? Is that something you want to do? Are you going to be an instructor? So then you don't have to hire somebody, because I actually helped somebody get into doing her own gym and fitness and things like that and starting her business with her. And so you've got to determine what kind of financial resources you have, what kind of time do you have, and then make sure, if you have a spouse, make sure your spouse is on board with that time commitment and the family's on board with that commitment. But it can be a lot of fun. But I would just say, do your homework on the brand, talk to other franchisees, and make sure you fully understand what you're getting into.
Oh, I'm glad I'm recording this because I took some good notes recording. But that was great. Thank
You
you, Ms.
probably
Lord.
say, what did I do? Why did I get into franchise?
What we talked about earlier, if franchising or just business was easy, everybody be doing it right.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of sacrificing, a lot of, like you say, relationship piece with the franchisor and franchisee. Let me ask you a question. How important do you think the leadership is when I'm looking at a brand? You think that's important for one to look into?
Yes, absolutely. And so you might have covered this last week, but there's a document that every time you look for a franchise, there's a document called a franchise disclosure document, or we will say an FDD. Okay. If a brand doesn't want to give it to you, why? Like, I guess I'm one where I'll be like, I've got nothing to hide. Here's a franchise disclosure document. What it basically is a prospectus on the brand. So if you were going to buy a share of stock, you'd say, I want to read up about the stock. Who's managing the company? Who, what are their earnings? That's basically what an FDD is. So by law, anybody that's in the franchising, we have to have an FDD. And if you request it, we have to give it to you. We will normally ask you to sign for the receipt of that. It does not obligate you. But if you were to ever do a deal, we have to show that we gave you this document. That is a document that I would tell you, read thoroughly, just like you would if you were investing in a share of stock and reading Morningstar to find out, is this good stock investment? Because a franchise is an investment. At the end of the day, it's an investment. Read the franchise disclosure document. In that, to your point, Sedrick, we have to list who's managing this company. Is it a private equity company? What's their background? Is the brand healthy? We have to put financials in there. Who's the leadership? Are they in restaurant? Have they ever been in restaurant? Have they ever been in business? The people in marketing, do they have marketing background in development? So each brand in the FTD will have to list, it's not everybody in the company, but they will list the leadership and then list their background. But I think it's important to, look through that, make sure they have restaurant background. I mean, one of the things that I liked about, personally about our president at QDOBA was that he had been a franchisee at one time. I brought him into the Sonic system. So he had been a franchisee himself. And I think that's important. He understands this is he had to invest the money, right? And so he knows what it's like to have sat in a franchisee's shoes. And so I think that's important as a brand, because otherwise the brand is asking you to invest a lot of money. They have to understand, like, what are you doing with this investment? What are you doing with my royalties that I'm paying in? And are these good stewards of the brand? Are they going to, take our marketing dollars? Are they going to spend them wisely? Are they going to take those dollars and put into technology or loyalty programs or whatever? But yeah, definitely to me, and accessibility to the leadership too. Now, the bigger the brand, are you going to be able to call them up on the phone and, hey, I want to talk? No, probably not. But you want to make sure you have a brand that somehow, some way, the franchisees have a voice and they can be heard, whether it's a separate association that they may have internally or an outside association that you can go to and you can talk to them about the brand once you get in it. But also look for a brand that has, where you can have a voice and you're just not, a royalty check. But just also realize that when you get into a franchise system, it's not your job to necessarily reinvent the wheel. You're going into a franchise system because you want the wheel that's already running, right? And then the spokes of the wheel keep it turning, right? To keep sales in there. So sometimes people will come in and, oh, I think you should put this product on the menu. Yeah, but it doesn't sell. Like when I was at Sonic, nobody bought salads, but people say, well, you can have a salad on, nobody buys them. So you have to understand from the brand's perspective why they're making some of the decisions, because we can't make it on a franchisee by franchisee basis. You have to make it based on, if you're nationwide, it's got to be a nationwide decision, right? And then in some brands, you have the ability to do regional type things, which is, I think, is smart too, to be able to do that. That was probably a long, I digress. So
that was awesome. I'm blown away. But I knew anyway when you came home, that you're gonna spit the knowledge to us, and I appreciate that. And you said something. You said a lot of things important, but I go back to the Sonic part about adding salads. I think that brands, yeah, I think brands now they get away from the basics, who you are, and you tend to confuse your guest. They don't know who you are. Hey, I didn't go to Sun to get a salad. I want a burger. I want a burger with a lot of calories and fats. Let's be real about it. So I think a lot of brands they don't use the KISS theory. They got away. They're getting away from it. But you got to understand at the end of the day, like QDOBA, you know who you guys are. You know who your guests are. And I think a lot of these brands that I know of just got away from the basics, marketing to their guests.
They try to be everything to everyone. And you don't need to be.
Okay.
Just focus on your core customer, and then just work on that. You don't, when everybody was putting these menus together, I remember, with nothing against Cheesecake Factory, but I remember going in there and like, oh my gosh, like this is a 10-page menu. The best thing about COVID was it forced brands to really look at their menus and make changes, right? Because, you can't keep all those items and keep them fresh in a restaurant. I mean, to me, when I see a restaurant with too big of a menu, all I'm thinking to myself is, how much of that is processed? That's me, right? You can't have this giant menu and not have processed food because you got to get the food out to the guests, right? And so, but know who you are. And I think, if you're a fast food restaurant, just know who that guest is, what they want, burger, fry, shake, it's pretty simple. If, they want to eat healthy, maybe it's other choices that they're making. But also people say one thing and do another. That's what I have found too, is people say they want to eat healthy and then they get to the restaurant and, Subway, I heard they always sold a lot of cookies with their low fat subs, because people go in there and it's like, oh, I'm going to reward myself. I just got the chicken sub, so I'm going to have a cookie. So, but right. Know your guests and then, don't try to be everything to everyone.
Oh wow, that's great. I guess the challenge is brand identity. A lot of brands they struggle with that because they got this broad menu and they make it so the throughput issue to execute making this product. You
Right.
got a restaurant. It can be labor intensive to just even make that product. So that's why I think, like I said, a lot of brands have gotten away from that, and until they understand that, hey, listen, these are our core customers. We're not a high end burger joint. We who we are. We're not a high end. We got our guests and we know what they want at the end of the day. So that
Yep.
that is marvelous. We appreciate you touching on that. Let's go back to like business plans. Let's kind of touch on, I guess the first thing in the business plan you want to start off with your executive summary. Kind of
Yep.
touch on like an executive summary and company information. Can you kind of touch just a little bit on some
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
intro? Okay.
So I always tell people too with business plans, if you go into a bank and you give them a 40, 50 page business plan, no one's reading it. Okay. You need to be able to put, you may have another business plan that's more in depth, but I've heard anything past 5 slides is not going anywhere. So, I think because then you need to be able to talk passionately, right? So you're right. You start with an executive business plan, like, okay, this is who I am, this is my background. Then you talk about the operations, whether you're in restaurant or any other, who's going to be involved, how much is your involvement, who's going to be in this with you. Then you might put together a kind of a profit loss statement, like, and you can use the FDD, the franchise disclosure document. Just remember, when brands give you that, those are averages. By law, we cannot predict what you're going to do in sales. So if you say to me, hey, Lori, how much can I do in this? I'll say our system average is 1.6. You may do 500,000. Somebody else may do 2 million, but this is the system average. And so what I always say is take your business plan, do a worst case scenario. So if you're at 1.6, say you're 1.6, 1.2, 2 million, have 3 different tiers, because again, going into a new business, if you've not been in it before, don't assume you're going to be able to hit all the key metrics, the labor, all those different things that you have to look at when you're doing a business. Over time, you will get better and better at meeting those metrics. And in fact, you will probably do better, because what I've seen in a lot of brands is franchisees actually run better P&Ls than corporate does, because they have skin in the game. It's their money, right? And so failure is not an option. And so that, having kind of a P&L that you start out, okay, and these FDDs will give you some basic info, but again, those are averages. Talk to other franchisees in the system. If you have friends that have franchises, just go sit, hey, tell me what mistakes did you make? And, if food and paper is this, what should I expect to do? And just really start to put that pencil to paper and then figure out, what is that return that I need to be able to make this? Because you know what? I tell everybody in the restaurant business, it's a pennies business. You lose in quarters. Now it can add up to a lot of pennies, but if you're not watching some of your key operating metrics, and I would say I was in the grocery business for a long time too, with Fleming Foods. And So I worked with a lot of grocery independents and worked with them and worked for Fleming was like the second largest to Super Value. And so it was a lot of grocery independent owners. And so, again, grocery pennies business, right? And so we put coffee cheap, but then we'd mark something else up because what gets people in the door? Coffee, flour, you had certain items. And that's what you have to look at when you're doing your business plan too, is that, okay, how can I price out items in my market? You have to think through all that. What are the competitors in the market? Kind of think through that as you're looking at that, but put that P&L together and then, talk about development too, because with a lot of brand, whether it's a service brand that maybe you just have to go out and get a truck and you got to build a territory. Do you get a territory? What tools are they going to give you to help you go build that territory? Because it doesn't matter what franchise system you're in, whether you're selling food or dryer vents. Because I have a friend, Thomas, who he runs a lot of small service brand franchises. So for somebody getting out of college and all he needs is a truck and he can go out there and clean dryer vents. I mean, who knew, right? Like, I think it's a genius. And the investment is maybe 50 to 75,000, but your investment is in your time, you're out there building the business. And then hopefully over time, then you're getting bigger territories, right? And that type of thing. So again, I think finding the right franchise for you is important. And that's why when you do your business plan and you present it to the bank, hopefully you've done a lot of that work prior to that to find. Maybe you narrow to 3. These are my top 3. And then think through, should I even get into that brand? Because I have to tell you, I probably say no more than yes. Because I tell people, listen, I'm going to either help you live a dream or I'm going to talk you out of a dream. But we're going to figure it out together. Just because you love our food doesn't mean you're going to be a good franchise. If you've not developed before, if you've never ran a business before, because you have a lot of employees, all of that. It's like, I just want them to find the right franchise. And that's why I will point people to franchising.com. Great website, go there. Usually if a brand is affiliated with franchising.com, they're pretty solid. Okay. But you can go in there, put what part of the country you're in, how much you have to invest. You'll see some of the franchises that come up. So you can go to franchising.com. You can also go to, like I mentioned, the IFA, International Franchise Association. They are the industry. They're the ones that lobby on behalf of franchising and small business. Okay. I love IFA. They're another great resource that as you look into franchising, they have some educational things that you can read about. They also have a conference every February. If you're trying to franchise your business, let's say you already have a business and you're like, how do I franchise? Which some people want to start doing that. IFA has a lot of resources for that. And then there's conferences like the Multi-Unit Franchise Show. That is in March every year. And you can go there and there'll be like 400 brands there, right? Or there's a lot of small regional shows that you may find. Dallas has them, San Diego has them, where they're just small little franchising shows that you can go to. Not all your big brands are going to be there, but if you're just starting out on this, most brands, if you don't have any prior background, sometimes you have to start with a C brand just to get in, right? Or if you do, and I hate to say, as a woman, I'm all about the money, but it's true because I know that if you've got the financial resources and maybe you have other really good business experience of you've started a business, you had employees, you understand all of that. I know that you're going to find the right operator to go in there and help you do this.
That's so great. We appreciate that information. That was some valuable information, and you continue to spit it out. And that we appreciate. I know I appreciate it, and I know everybody who's going to be tuning in going to appreciate it. Let me go back to the business plan again. If I'm going to a bank, which I have gone to a bank, but
Yep,
they usually ask for a perform a balance sheet financial
yep,
statement, correct?
yep,
Usually ask
yep.
for what, like 12 months? They want a 12 months performance.
If you have an existing business, they'll probably want a little more than that. But starting out, yeah, I mean, have your financials put together. I mean,
Okay.
you'd be surprised how many people, I'll say, hey, send me a P&L or personal financial statement, PFS, and they're like, what? Like, I don't care whether you have a business or not, have a personal financial statement that you keep up with, so how how you're doing financially. Because there again, it goes back to, I look for the cream, right? Like, these are my expenses, this is my income coming in. Do you have an extra money to put towards this business? So that's where I would think, yeah, really look through, and put together a personal financial statement. So when you go into a bank, it's like, I can meet my obligations personally. This is what I'm looking for. Or they want to know that you're going to have some cash to put into this business going forward. So yeah, have your financials up to date. And it's surprising, a lot of people don't even know what a PFA, personal financial statement is. But even if you only got $5,000, hey, it's nice to see that get added, and do that every quarter and every year, so you can see how you're doing financially.
That is a great points, great points. Let me ask you, as far as the PFS, the score have can we go to score to get a
They
template
have
on
templates
PFS?
there too. They've got templates for almost everything that's out there. And you don't have to use a mentor. So, you can get, I'm pretty sure you don't. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I don't think you have to have a mentor. You can sign in as a guest, but even if you do get a mentor, you don't have to use them as much as you want. But they have a lot of templates. They have a lot of videos that you can go out there, like, oh, hey, I want to market my business. How do I go about doing that? They'll have videos for that. They have lots of great resources. The other thing, SCORE will do local workshops. I've seen some of those where and you can find out from your bank. You want to find a bank that's SBA.
Mhm.
Maybe they're an SBA, what's the word for it, certified. They can make a decision for the SBA. I can't remember the word I want to use for that, but they will know a lot of times about workshops. Because I live in Oklahoma City, I've seen some of the workshops. I've seen the banks kind of reach out to the local SCORE here and say, hey, will you help educate on on franchising? So you just have to get connected. And I think you can do that through just going to the score.org website and putting in your zip code, and they'll tell you some of the local things that may be going on in your community that you can take advantage of. I don't know if every SCORE chapter, how vibrant it is. I can't speak to that, but I think they do a pretty good job of keeping all the resources up to date.
Great. So I could let's say, for an example, if I've had SBA loans. Let's say
Yeah.
I want to look at QDOBA. You guys, direct me to get an SBA. Are you guys on the SBA register list for
Yes.
the SBA? Okay.
Yeah. So you look for brands that are on their SBA registry list. If they're not, that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It's just that we qualified through SBA, or we've given the SBA some information. We have our FDD that they've looked at, and they kind of peruse the brands. Every brand too, just so you know, you have to submit a current current financials of the brand and updates with that FDD that I mentioned annually. There's 13 states that are called what is called registration states. And those states even do even more due diligence on the brand. Those are like Minnesota, New York, North Dakota, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Indiana, Hawaii, and Illinois. Those are registration states. So they have even California, they have even more due diligence that's done. Other states, you submit the new FDD, you pretty much can get that turned around, probably in 48 hours, but it is federally regulated. And so, that's why people will ask me a lot of questions. How much can I make? What can I do? I'm like, listen, I have to go by what's in the FDD. It's not that we're trying to be evasive. It's just that by law, we have to, when I talk to somebody about buying a franchise, I have to stick to what's in the FDD. And that's why I'll say, talk to other franchisees. They can be more forthcoming than I can.
Great registration state. So let's say, for an example, you're trying to sell your brand in California, but you don't have your FDD registered. That means you can't what? You can't
Can't
sell.
sell it. No,
Okay,
yeah.
that's
And
a no
there's,
no.
that's a no-no. That's a no-no. Yeah. And so a lot of folks will say, oh, I want to start a franchise. I'm going to start a franchise. It's like, do you really realize how it's a lot of work legally, and or what, maybe you don't do business in the registrations, these register, you don't have to do it. And when you're starting a brand, you don't have to go nationwide. I think that's what I've seen too, is some brands, they'll start out and they want to go national. I'm like, just build out your niche first, and then maybe surrounding states, and just kind of build out that way. Instead, some will do the shotgun approach. It's, oh, hey, you'll open a store for me here. I'll do this. I'll do that. You never get great brand awareness or penetration when you do it. Who's looking to franchise your concept as well. Make sure you really do your homework. And there's, companies that can help you with that. You'll also find, while I'm employed directly with QDOBA, I was with Sonic, there are brokers out there that some people can work with, where if you're not sure what franchise system, there's a broker network out there that you can work with a broker. Some brands will use brokers. I'm always like, I think I need to work for the brand personally, but there is a broker network out there that can help you also as you're trying to figure out what brand you want to do.
That's great. Well, thank you for that information. One last question for you here.
Yeah.
If I want to be a volunteer or be a mentor with SCORE, how would I just go on and sign up, or can you tell us the process that you did in order to be a mentor for SCORE?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to recall how I did that. I just I think I went through the website, and it was like, do you want to be a mentor? You have to go through some training. So they have you go through, what you can or can't say, right? You can't solicit, people to come do your business. If I'm an accountant, say, oh, I'll help you with accounting. By the way, I do accounting, so they have a lot of, rules that you have to, follow, and some training. They want to make sure they have professionals that are helping you. But yeah, if I recall, I think I did just go to the website and said that I wanted to be a mentor and submitted some information about myself. Yes.
Great. You have summed this up so thoroughly for us, and I definitely appreciate that. I just want to ask you, do you want to have any closing? Do you want to have anything to add? Because wow, this was breathtaking to me, because a lot of stuff you said I didn't know. Some stuff I do know because I'm in franchise, but
Yeah.
all the behind the scene things, because you got to wear the hat on the franchisor side, and you understand where I'm coming from. Different when you hadn't been on the franchisee side, you wouldn't understand. You wouldn't
No,
understand it. But it's if you win, we win, right?
that's right.
Fair assessment.
That's right.
So I appreciate you so much. I just want you to close and just anything you want to add, because wow, I got to scratch my head. This was awesome, Miss
Well,
Lori.
I'm just passionate about franchising, whether it's
Oh,
QDOBA or service it. I don't care what it is. I just want people to find the right fit for them because franchising is a great model, but you do have to do your homework. Make sure you pick the right brand. Make sure you talk to franchisees. Listen to the brand. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't think you can negotiate everything in the FTD. It just doesn't work that way. You know that, Sedrick. Because we have to treat everybody equally, right? To a degree, yes. But read the FTD. Read it. Understand it is a business relationship. While it is a relationship, at the end of the day, it's a business relationship. And that development agreement, the franchise agreement, that sticks with you for 10, 20 years. Make sure you read that through, have an attorney look at it. Just know that a lot of brands won't make changes to that agreement just because we try to be uniform with everybody we work for. But just understand that it's important that you read through that document. So when I send it to you and it's 300 pages and you go, I'm not going to read it. No, read the document. And so you know what you're getting into.
Wow, you know what? That's awesome. You said that, and I want to kind of piggyback or kind of rewind because you touched on something earlier. I want to say about you talk about the relationship that it's okay to have. Look at a brand that has a franchise association because I think that when you get into certain brands, they said okay, they have what you call different FACs or FCAs, whatever they call them, but do they actually listen to their franchisees? So that's
Yeah.
great. You touched on that because that, a lot of, I don't know. I think some franchisers try to shy away from that franchisee association because they think it creates a division, but it doesn't. I think it give franchisee a level playing ground, if you will. Hey, let us listen to us. Just don't let it go through one ear and
Yeah.
out the other. So
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
QDOBA do you guys have a franchise association?
We do actually. It's the QDOBA Franchise Association. It is an independent association. So some brands will have internal ones. When I was at Sonic, they kind of had an internal one. They didn't have an external one. At QDOBA, we have an external one. And then you have like six, for us, it's like, I think it's six different franchisees that sit on the committee. We meet with them quarterly. And I mean, we're going to say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. We want your feedback. Keep in mind, we get your feedback, but then the brand has to ultimately make a decision for the brand, not for each individual franchisee. But yeah, you want to solicit you're the ones that are in it day to day. We still run corporate stores ourselves. And we're building corporate stores. So, we're in it too. So if we put out a promotion that doesn't do well, guess what? It's hurting our bottom line too, because we operate stores. So, I think just really, you don't use a QFA as a mean, it doesn't need to get like this. And I think that's kind of what people think that, I think some brands think it's a bad thing to have an outside source, but hey, you guys are investing in the brands. And I think as long as you have open dialogue and everybody understands you're trying to make the best decision for the brand, that's what matters. But yeah, definitely, whether it's in-house and then you can get on various committees. So we have a technology committee, a marketing committee. Most brands will have that where you can, what are you passionate about? And that's the other thing. If you're going to be in a brand, then be in a brand, get involved, get on some of these committees. Don't just sit there and let, well, somebody else, and then you complain. No, if you love marketing and you want a voice and you can get on the committee, get on the committee, because otherwise it seems like it'll be the same people on the committees. And, you want to be able to get other people's thoughts as well. And everybody runs them different. Sometimes they're voted on. Sometimes it's 3 years you're on a committee, then you roll off. So every brand is different.
Great. That's great. I think, like you said, committees, get involved with the brand, but at the same time, some think that if you do get on these committees, they're not listening. You're just on the committee as a sounding board, but are they actually taking your advice? So, you do want to get involved, but you don't get paid for being on these committees. It's some
You
volunteer.
don't.
You don't get
Although
paid,
we
so
pay
that's
for you to
time.
fly in and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
no,
yeah.
those are, yeah. But I think it's important to listen, but it's also important to understand where the brand is going long term, because you're not going to make every franchisee happy. and it's like, what are you going to do as a brand? It's a long, sometimes it's a different plan than what one person is doing in his market versus what you're looking at holistically as the brand. But then that's up to the brand's leadership to communicate that message, and then show you as a franchisee, here's why we need to go this path, and make sure we explain it in a way that you might not like it, but you're like, okay, I get it.
But you would agree that if you got a problem, it's not just one franchise, it's multiple franchise. You agree that that is a problem that needs to be addressed. You would agree.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. Yep.
Well, Miss Laura, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have we're gonna definitely stay in touch because I'm telling you, you told me some stuff. We've been communicating for what some months now, but some things that you told me today, I didn't know. And then you got my good old buddy Jason over there. Wow. So I
Yeah.
really got to connect with Jason because he's a thorough guy in training because he used to be with a brand that I'm with. And wow, very impressive. I thank you for your time so much today and good luck to you in anything you're doing. God bless you. But I just want to yield to you and thank you so much for your time because the information you told us today, I'm telling you, you came back. You got to really hear from your mouth. You got to hear it and you got to witness it because a lot of people tell you things, but you told the truth. And that's what my show is all about, being honest and truthful and transparent. Because listen, each brand is not for you. You got to find a brand that fits you.
That's right.
The leadership, on and on and on. So, Miss Lori, thank you so much, Miss Lori.
You are welcome. And I'm on LinkedIn. It's Lori Osley, Osley. If anybody has any questions or whatever, like I said, I'm passionate about franchising, just happy to give some advice for whatever it's worth. But I appreciate you having me on and best of luck with your podcast moving forward. Okay.
Thank you, Miss Lori. You have a blessed day. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.